My name is Amy Jasper. I am here at Inking on the Fly, and I have a Stampin' Up! Project to share with you using the June Paper Pumpkin kit from Stampin' Up! That is called Expressions in Color. These cards, these 3 cards here, are the original designs that the kit has to offer. And today I want to share some alternative projects for you. So you can see here I have a few things laying around to give you a hint of what is to come. I am going to use elements from the kit. Let's just move these out of the way. I'm going to use some elements from the kit, and I'm going to, so these are all papers, various papers from the kit. So and I have them in an order so that I'll know what I want to do here. But I've cut them at various sized strips from 1/4 inch all the way up to 5/8 of an inch. And for this card, I'm going to start by adhering those strips to this piece of acetate. This piece is cut at 3.5 by 4 3/4 of an inch. So this is just Stampin' Up's window sheet material, acetate. It's covered in fingerprints. Look at that. That's from me handling it a little too much. So sometimes when I use acetate, I'll actually use gloves to protect from fingerprints and smudges, but not a whole lot of this acetate is going to show on this card because we're going to do sort of a floating paper strips technique that I've sort of seen floating around the internet. And I quite liked it, so we're going to give it a try. And so we're going to start, I could have cut all of these to the width that I needed originally. That probably would have been smart, but it's not a big deal. So I'm just going to take these strips and attach them one at a time onto my window sheet material here. And it's always a good idea to start with the first one straight, because then you know it's easier to get the next one straight, right? Grid paper helps, of course. And again, Tombow liquid glue is fantastic because I can shift it if it's crooked a little bit. There's that little bit of time to reposition things. I'm just using my window sheet to just determine how far over I need my glue. So again, it would have been probably smart for me to cut these strips to the same width as my window sheet, but that's okay. I'll probably be trimming the window sheet down for a card in between things here for my next card that I have planned but haven't designed yet. So the paper in this kit is so pretty. It's with the same kind of artwork as the Expressions in Ink designer series paper. So this kit is meant to go with that paper pack, or that kit, that whole shebang, really. I'm not sure if I want these as far apart as I have them, but I think I've committed to that. I have to stick with what I've got here. Carrying on one strip at a time. So this is a bit time consuming just because I want them to be straight and I don't want to get adhesive anywhere other than where I want the adhesive to be. You could use Stampin' Seal for each of these strips. The only challenge is when you get down to these skinnier strips, it's a bit of a trick to get that Stampin' Seal on. So again, my Tombow liquid glue, it literally is multi-purpose liquid glue. It can be used for so many different materials that you use for crafting. So I find it's just easy to always use the same thing. And then it's familiar too, right? I know what I'm getting into. So then we're getting down to the skinny strip. Whew, it suddenly got really hot in my room. My stamp room's usually cold, but of course we have record-breaking temperatures right now. So we reduced the amount of effort that our air conditioning has to do, so our house is warmer than usual. Which is fine. But usually my stamp room is cold. Like even in the summer I have to put on a sweater or whatever, but right now I'm cooking. Whew. It's muggy. So I'm just, as I go along, I'm just making sure they're straight because I don't want to have anything going off where I don't want it to go. So I'm just carrying on with these paper strips all the way down until my acetate is covered, except for these spaces. So these spaces are about, I would say they're a 1/16 of an inch wide, each space. So 1/2 of an 1/8 of an inch. Okay, we're almost done this part. And they're all pretty straight, so doing pretty good. Getting there, so close here. So I have such a tiny section at the bottom here, but I'm still going to attach this guy, even though it's ridiculously small. Well, maybe I shouldn't bother. It's hard to see. It's so small. Come on, camera, concentrate. There we go. It's such a small section. There really isn't any point, so I'm not going to put that last piece on. All right, so then we have all of those strips attached. Excellent. Before I proceed, I am going to go ahead and stamp. I want a sentiment on here. So I'm going to stamp thanks. This one's totally crooked. I don't know if I can shift it. Sometimes when you're adhering to something that is non-porous, like the acetate, the liquid glue just takes a little bit longer to hold, which is kind of it in this case. I don't think I can shift it. That's okay. Okay, so before I proceed, I'm going to stamp the word thanks on this larger fresh freesia section. I am going to use just Memento Black. It didn't come with the kit. But, you know, most of you have black, so I think we're good. We're safe with black. I just want to make sure it's really well inked because I don't want to have any mistakes. I want this to stamp really nicely. Now I have to think, how far over do I need this to be? Pretty far over. We're going to go about, I don't know, 3/8 of an inch from the one side. I'm going to put it up kind of high and hope that we don't smudge it. I just want to make sure it has good contact. Yay! Okay. So that's our sentiment. And if I wanted, like sometimes when I have a solid stamp like this, I might want to do that a few times using my Stamparatus. Then I would get a more even pressure and better coverage, I should say. Okay, so then as you noticed, I have a couple of dies over here. So I have a circle die from the Layering Circles Framelits dies. And I have a butterfly die here from the Brilliant Wings dies. And beside me, where you cannot see, I have my handy dandy cut and emboss machine. But before I run it through that, I want to kind of get a visual of where I want my elements to be here. So first I'm going to trim that because I want my circle cut to be centered on my acetate because I want to use that acetate later as well. So let's just trim this down. There. Then we can see where our center is. So I want my acetate to be, or I want my circle to be centered, and I want the thanks a little higher than middle, I think. Do I want it that high though? I don't know. Right about there. So I'm going to be cutting it. There's such a tiny sliver of the green up there. I might not have glue on that section, so I might have to glue that on again. That's okay. So I'm going to run that through my die cutting machine here, which you can't see because it's on my other table, in hopes that it won't wiggle my whole camera. It might still, but. And because it's going through the acetate and those paper layers, I want to go through a few times. It might have even been good for me to add a shim. I don't know if you ever do that. I might even just throw one on there. I just throw a piece of cardstock on top of my layers, which adds just a little extra pressure. Hopefully that will help it cut through, because it is, it's a lot of layers for the die to cut through. And that acetate is, you know, plastic, so I think, did it work? Yay! Okay, that actually did cut through. So sometimes there's little threads around the edges. I just take those off with my fingernail. So this piece here I can save and use for another card later. So then this piece, we have this cool kind of circle going on. And I'm also going to cut my butterfly out. So I'm going to take this again, run it through my machine, and have the butterfly cut out kind of like that. And again, I'm going to use a little shim. I just grabbed a piece of cardstock from just on my table here, a random scrap. And I will put that on top of my project and the plate on top of that. Sorry you can't see this. And I run that through a couple times just to make sure that it's going to cut all the way through. As I grunting with the effort. All right, let's see. Did that cut well? Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, it didn't quite cut through. It's quite a delicate die, so I'm not surprised. But that's okay. That's where our paper snips come in. So then I can just use my paper snips to help it along. If you have like a, what do you call it? What do you call that? X-Acto knife. And I don't have to preserve this butterfly. I'm not too concerned about keeping it. So we can kill this poor butterfly. Oh. We'll cut along our outside edge of our butterfly cut. And it's almost done. There we go. Oh, and then we have the little antennas, or antlers as some call them. I love calling them antlers. I think it's hilarious. These are a little trickier to get. So because this was such a delicate die, trying to go through the acetate and the paper, it was just a bit too much for it. So we'll just help it along. Patiently, of course, because we don't want to cut anything that we don't want cut. You know what I'm talking about. It is a bit of a fuss though, isn't it? Okay, there we go. Phew, that's good, done. So you can see like the remaining butterfly is kind of, you could, I mean, I destroyed it, but if you could preserve it, you could use it for something else. I don't know. All right, so we have our little die cut thingamabobber. I'm not good with words apparently. Thingamabobber, what is that? I don't know. Okay, so that's it's kind of a floating stripy kind of thing going on. Then we're going to take a piece of just basic white cardstock. This one is cut to 3 1/4 by 4 1/2. And I'm going to apply this onto there with dimensionals. Sometimes, I don't know if you can see this on the camera, but sometimes when we use the Big Shot with lots of layers, you end up, I don't know if you can see, you end up with wrinkles and marks in your cardstock surface from the embossing plates, because the embossing plates are, you know, well used. Well, let me show you. You know what they look like. Here's mine, right? So it's got all those flecks of paper bits, and just they're damaged and beat up. So, which is normal. But sometimes it leaves little marks in your paper that we don't like. And in this case, it's okay. I don't find that it's severely limiting or impeding the beauty of my project. So that's good. I do find when I use something like gold foil, that's when it's really frustrating to get those marks in. So if you find that you're getting those marks, it does help to put a piece of paper over top of the surface of your project before putting your second cutting plate on. So you'd have, here's your sandwich would be like this. You'd have your base plate, your number 2, whatever it's called, plate, your number 3 plate, your paper, or your whatever you're cutting, the paper, yes, your die. Then before you put your second plate on, if you put a piece of cardstock over top, I don't have any that's not been, that's not been worked on, but if you put a cardstock layer over top, then put on your top plate, then those little marks will go on that spare piece of cardstock. So sometimes I'll use retired colors or paper I don't like or whatever's handy if I'm finding those marks are causing problems. But again, in this case, they're not that noticeable, so I think I'm okay. Plus I did my stamping beforehand, so it won't affect any stamping, so I think we're fine. Okay, so this is going to go on my card front with dimensionals. So I have my mini dimensionals. I just want to check. Oh, that top little sliver of paper is still doing fine. All right, so I want mini dimensionals underneath these guys. And I'm pretty generous with my mini dimensionals. I want to make sure everything stands up properly how I like it to. Okay, so take off all my backings. Now, before I attach that, I think I want one of those elements from the kit, which is this leaf here. It's one of their die cuts. I'm going to put that to the side. So I'm just going to kind of get an idea of where I want it to be before I attach it. Because it's going to go there. My butterfly will go over top of it. Oops. So whenever you're using Tombow liquid glue with something delicate like this, you don't need very much, like just really thin amounts of glue. Too thick and it will ooze out the edges. Nobody likes anything oozing. Is there anything at all in life that we like to ooze? Okay, maybe like caramel out of a caramel bar. We'll go with that. We like oozing there, but that's about it. Nothing else. Okay, so this guy's gonna go, I think, about here. Let's hope for the best. Yeah, that feels right. We'll go with that. Good. So like that. Okay. And then we will put that down with our dimensionals that are on the back. And I want to make sure it's straight because I have stripes, so it's going to be noticeable if it's not straight. So, I don't know, right about there. Does that look right, you guys? I think so. Straight and centered, aim. It's hard to tell if it's centered because that piece is cut off. But that feels right, so let's go with that. And then we can put our little butterfly. So this is, I just cut this little butterfly out of basic black cardstock. See how little glue I put on? Such a small amount. And he's gonna pop right in there, flat with my card base section. You guys are so quiet today. That's okay. It's hot out. It's hard to... Hopefully people are just sitting by their fans. I don't know what the temperature is now, but... Okay, why isn't this sitting properly here? I want this layer to be... There we go. It was just catching on... It was catching on the acetate underneath. There. Okay, I think we got it. Oh, down here too. I just want all of that popped up above the butterfly. I want the butterfly to be kind of sunken down a little bit. There we go. There. So cute. Okay, we're on our way. My thanks is a little not as dark and rich as I'd like to have it. If I did this again, I might stamp it with Versamark and then use black embossing powder. Maybe I'll do another one and with that and share that with you later when it's done. Black embossing powder would, you want to do it before you attach all your layers to the acetate though. Yeah, and then cutting that might smush it, so I'm not sure. Anyways, I'll try that later. Okay, so we've got this guy. I'm going to put him on a white on white kind of framework, and I've got this piece here is only 1/16 of an inch bigger than this piece, which is going to give me a 1/32 of an inch border. Super tiny. We're talking like a millimeter of a border, just enough to help, because I'm going to be putting this on a white card base. It will help just give a little more definition on the edge without too much of a border, because I don't want a border to take away from my other elements on my card. So you can see it's just the tiniest border all the way around. Excellent. Then that's going to go on a card base. So that's going to go on the card base like that. I was thinking of maybe adding, I haven't got that far in my planning, but I thought I could add some of the evergreen baker's twine that they gave us in the kit. Let's see, we'll just lay it on there and see what we think. If I can tie it, come on now, there we go. So if I just lay it on kind of down here by the butterfly, how's that going to look? Do we like that? Or is that too much? I don't know. I'll think on that some more. This guy's going to go on dimensionals because we like dimensionals, right? And then this one's almost done. Maybe I'll add two more. Two more, just for security. The more you add, the more you have to peel off backings. Okay, so then this guy can go on the front of our card base, straight, hopefully. Straight is good. Like that. I am liking this. This one took me a while to figure out how I wanted to lay it on the card, but I quite like that. Really pretty. Okay, I'm going to fiddle with this again. I'm going to straighten out this baker's twine. I am going to try not to make it twist. Hi, Eunice. Thanks for joining me on this Not Monday morning. It's nice to see you. I'm having a hard time with this baker's twine. It doesn't want to, it wants to twist, and I'm usually pretty good at not getting them to twist, but for some reason it's not cooperating. Usually if you keep the knot loose as you adjust your bow, there, I think I got it. No twisting. Okay, let's just get an idea. If I want this bow, I don't know if I do. So if I do this bow, I think it's going to have to go maybe down there. Help me out, Eunice. Bow or no bow? So the bow can go down there. I haven't attached it yet. I'm just getting an idea of what I like. Okay, so that's with the bow. And that's without the bow. I don't know. I think the bow helps. I think it adds a little more to look at on the lower section of the card. So I think I'm good with the bow. I don't know what you think, Eunice. Oh yes, always need a bow. That's what your answer is. Okay, good. We're on the same page. I like it. Okay, so to attach that bow, I'm going to use a glue dot because it's not going to be tied to anything. So whenever I use a glue, oh, I've got all my glue dots are exposed. What's going on? Whenever I use a glue dot for something tiny like this, I like to kind of roll it so it's not so big. The glue dots in the kit, Paper Pumpkin kit, are smaller, so that's nice. I just find them really hard to work with because I can't get them off that silly, like they're on a back, the ones in the kit are on a backing, like a plastic backing, and then they have, what do you call that? That whatever, paper backing on top, and it's too many things to peel off. I find that very frustrating. So I use my own glue dots from Stampin' Up instead. There. Done. I like it. These are really curly for some reason. Let's trim those just a wee bit. There we go. Okay, so that's my alternative project card number 1 for the June Paper Pumpkin kit. Okay, and that one is, you know, it's a bit time consuming because of all those paper layers, but definitely worthwhile. I quite like the look in the end here. Okay, card number 1 is done. So let's move on to card number 2. So for this one, I need a piece of paper. There we go, 5 by 3 3/3 is the size I want. And I'm using my background paper because we're going to do some sponging and fun things like that. So I have polished pink ink, which doesn't come with the kit, but you should have it because it's a beautiful pink. I love it. I'm using this stamp from the kit. And I'm going to stamp a whole bunch of these kind of on a diagonal. Some will be stamped off. Don't want dog hair on here. And I'm shifting the position a little bit to get some variation here. I want a little more stamped off ones. Kind of like that. So I've got this spray of color. Do another one down here. There we go. So I have this spray of color down the side. Oh, I still need that polished pink because I'm going to take my blending brush. Yes, Eunice, it's so hot. Usually my stamp room is cold because it's in the basement. It's not. I am sweating. And we have air conditioning, but we put it on a higher heat just because we don't want it to work so hard. So hopefully, although I don't hear the fan. Anyways, I hope it's working. That would not be fun. It would be unpleasant if my air conditioning stopped working. Also, shoot, what was I going to say? Oh, well, did I mention that we increased our Yeah, I don't know. I was going to say something else, but I forgot what it was. That's pretty common for me to forget what I'm saying mid-sentence. It happens. Yeah, it's pretty muggy in here right now. Oh, I was going to say, now I know what I was going to say. Our power went out yesterday. So it was 40 whatever degrees outside, ridiculous temperatures. And our power went out just in our neighborhood. So I don't know what was going on there, what happened, but it was a little sketchy for a bit there. But thankfully it was only out for, wasn't out that long. I would say an hour, maybe. No, it must have been more than that, 2 hours. So I was getting a little bit worried about how that would affect our freezer, which is in the garage, and the garage doesn't have air conditioning in it. It's just protected by being closed. So I was worried how that would affect our freezer. Okay, so now we have this beautifully done. I might flip it, I'm not sure. Flip it that way. A little more sponging. So this just gives a the sponging is just giving a softer edge to that stamping. There we go. I love these blending brushes. They're just amazing. Okay, then what are we doing next? Good question, Amy. I'm glad you asked. Okay. So I've got I'm going to be doing some fun things next. So I'm going to, I think next we're going to do some splatter on this. I think maybe I'll still use this paper just to be sure. So I just have some water in a paintbrush here. And I do find it a little bit tricky to get this water out of this paintbrush for some reason. It's very controlled. I'm just going to squeeze out a bit and hope for the best here. I'm going to spatter this on my paper. There we go. And what that's going to do, that's a bit big, is give me some extra, can you see that? Wherever the water falls, it kind of pushes the ink away, giving a little more texture and interest to the paper. It's a bit hard with this brush. I think it might be better to dip this brush in ink to get, because this is a very controlled paintbrush, water painter. There we go. We're getting a little better here. Look at it. Oh, I love it. So that just adds some more of that kind of there we go. I just needed some big ones. Okay. So as that dries, that ink kind of gets pushed out of the way. Oops. Oh, Eunice, you had a blown breaker. That's no fun. You got it fixed quickly, hopefully. Okay, so I think that's a good start. I want to do more though, more flicking. So I'm going to take my Wink of Stella brush, and honestly, I need to double check because I have this thing where I forget that something's retired. Good, it is still available. Phew. That's good. I don't want that. I don't want to use something that you guys can't use or can't get if you don't already. So the Wink of Stella is just a nice shimmery ink. And again, same thing. I'll tap it to get some little gold shimmery spatter on here. It's very pretty. I can squeeze out a little extra, not that much extra, and get some, there we go, some bigger spatter too. Ooh, I love it. So pretty. There we go. Ooh, ooh, look at those nice big ones there. Okay. So look, now I have, oh, it's so beautiful. Spattered gold on there. Now that's going to take a bit to dry, but I can show you where we went from there, because I can't really, I want to make sure that that dries really well before I carry on to the next step. So I'll show you a finished one instead. So this is my finished project. So there's gold, the gold flecks in behind there. And then I also stamped the thanks from the stamp set. So again, I used polished pink, and I stamped it full strength and half strength, full strength, and then under there is a half strength one that you can't see, which is fine. But yeah, just to have a little bit of variation of that. And then under here is from the 6x6 Designer Series paper pack. And I can't think of the name of the pack, but it's just your basic. This is polished pink. The pack comes with, you can get various color collections of the paper pack, but it has these nice sort of monochromatic papers, which I like. And then this one, just like that other card, I did a super, super thin border of basic white. And then the thanks is put on with Tombow liquid glue, but I put the Tombow liquid glue on the back of the thanks and then smeared it with my finger so that it wouldn't, you wouldn't see the kind of glue coming through the vellum. So that worked out fairly well. And then of course I have the sequins. So there you go. There are the two cards that I designed using the Paper Pumpkin June 2021 Expressions in Color Paper Pumpkin Kit. And I will be using my leftover bits for a future card. And don't forget to stamp the envelopes. The envelopes in that kit didn't have much going on with them. They were just your basic envelopes. So stamp them, make them your own. This one particularly, you could do that same technique on the flap of your envelope and have it on the edge. That would be really pretty. So there you go. Thanks for stopping by, and those of you who will be watching the replay, make sure you leave a comment and say hello, and yeah, let me know what you think.